for tuning in. This is OPTIBOTIMUS coming to you with another video review. And today, thanks to the folks at Playmates Toys, we'll be taking a look at the new Nickelodeon Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Rocksteady. The rock-headed rhino from the original 80s cartoon finally makes his return to us in the new Nick Turtle series. As for the packaging, as you can see, it's very similar to what we've gotten before. With the open clamshell, you got the figure within. You can also see that it comes with a hammer and a sickle, which is hilarious because, well, of the bio for the character, it definitely fits that he has those weapons. Come around here to the back, you see other figures that are available. You got a little sticker right here, which I have no idea what that sticker's from, but you also get a look at a couple upcoming figures. Obviously, Bebop and Rocksteady, Baxter Stockman as a fly, Mikey Terflydle, and of course, Karai in her serpent form. And then for his bio, it says, mutated by Shredder from Steranko to Rocksteady, he swears allegiance to Shredder and agrees to team up with his partner in crime, Bebop, to form the dynamic duo of Bebop and Rocksteady. Our heroes need to use extreme caution when dealing with this mutated rock-headed rhino. He is the brains and brawn of the Bebop-Rocksteady partnership and could deliver quite the feast to Shredder, where the main course is turtle soup. I love how they throw the turtle soup in there because that's something that Rocksteady always used to say. You can see that his weapons are the hammer and sickle, and then his team is obviously the Foot Clan. I say that it's very ironic that he has a hammer and sickle because Steranko is Russian, and the old Soviet flag had the hammer and sickle on there, so I think that's terrific. But for the packaging, that's about it. I'm really excited to see how this guy turned out. So without further ado, let's get him open and see how cool he actually is. Alright guys, so here we have Rocksteady opened up and out of its packaging. And much like the Bebop figure, I really am very impressed with how Rocksteady actually turned out. Character-wise, a lot of people are gonna have some expectations, I guess, with this guy, but I think in terms of a toy, he nicely kind of homages that original character. Now, one thing that I will touch on is that compared to the promotional images that we saw for this toy, this final version is lacking some of those paint details. In addition to that, it also seems to have some of his articulation reduced. Now, starting off first, one thing that I am really very impressed with is the amount of detail that they put in the actual sculpt. I mean, you can see a lot of just rough skin texture on the whole guy, and it really does come across very, very nicely. In addition to that, while he is missing some paint, the paint that is on him actually is fairly nice. I really like the gold that they use here on his shoulder pads. He's got some nice gold on his emblem in the front. He also does have a golden tooth. Now, in the original show, he obviously didn't have that, but the new character of Ivan Steranko actually did have a gold tooth. Now, the problem is, though, I think it was actually on the opposite side, but regardless, I love the fact that they did paint that. He's got some nice blue eyes right in there. Now, again, in terms of the actual character of Ivan Steranko, he actually had a diamond-encrusted fake eye. His original eye was, well, unfortunately, part of a small mistake caused by Anton Zek before he became Bebop. Now, you can't really see whether or not that is meant to be a diamond or anything, but I do still like that they actually painted the eyes. I do wish that they actually did paint his second horn right here, though. As you can see, the first one here is painted in this nice white plastic, and then he's got his other one here that is just not painted. That's kind of unfortunate. That's one of the points of paint detail that I really wish that it had, but honestly, it's just white paint, so I could probably fix that myself. But it really does have a great sculpt to him. Now, also for his lack of paint, I should say, he does have, I find this hilarious because he's like, when I hit you, I will hit you with my hammer and sickle. This hand is hammer, this hand is sickle. I don't know if that's what he says. I'm just pretending. But zooming in, I guess I could have stayed zoomed in. You can see that on his left hand here, he's got a little hammer actually molded into like a pair of knucks or something. And then on the opposite side, he's got a sickle, which is great because he comes with a sickle and a hammer, so you could have him hold them in both hands or something. But I think that's really very cool. Now, again, in the promotional images, these were painted gold, the same gold that was used here on his shoulder pads and his medallion. I do kind of wish that that was also painted just to kind of separate that from the rest of his body, because as it is, it just looks like two giant blocks on the back of his hands, and you can't really pull out those details. That would have been nice if they put that on there. Now, as I talked about, he does seem to have less articulation than what we saw in the promotional images. For his head, it does rotate left and right. His arms will rotate 360 degrees, but in the promotional images, it looked like they also bent outward. There was a bit of a cut right here that you could rotate it out. That is obviously no longer there. It probably has something to do with the actual shoulder pads themselves. And while it's unfortunate it's not there, I don't think it's all that bad because it can still obviously rotate all the way around, so you still get a nice range of motion. The wrists do rotate, which is really nice. I like having that on the figure. He does rotate at the waist. The harness here is all a separate piece that can, well, actually, is it? No, this... Yeah, it is all, it's just glued on there, but you can see that it's loose here around his waist. So as he rotates his waist around, that also moves along with it, which is really nice. Now, his hips also are a point of articulation that appears to have been removed. They just rotate on this angle outward. It's really funny, the way that these rotate really reminds me of the old vintage figures, in the fact that they just kind of rotate. But it also looks like in the promotional images that there was a cut there so we can move forward and back, but that's also been removed. The legs are a little bit weird, mostly because they're just stubs kind of, and then he comes down to his feet, and it does require some balance when you're trying to get him to stand. But it's interesting what they decided to do. They have it kind of hollowed out here in the bottom of his feet, so if you get him positioned right, which is a little bit staggered like that, he stands perfectly fine. Again, he also does come with, like I said, his hammer and sickle, which are just molded in this slightly flexible plastic, which is very convenient when you're trying to get these in. The sickle goes in fairly nicely on his hand right here, but the hammer on this one is a little bit tough, mostly because this is very rigid plastic, and you can see there's not much of a gap here. So you kind of have to wedge this in there at the thin part of the hammer, forcing that in, and then lifting it forward like so. And once you get it in there, it looks good, and you obviously can get him posed where he looks like he's just about to hit somebody, but that's really about it for his posing. But honestly, what would you want to pose him doing? I mean, this is a just perfect pose just for the character himself. Now, setting his arms down here, for comparison, here he is, and here we have him next to the vintage figure, as well as the new updated classic one. And again, much like that Bebop figure, you can see a lot of similarities. Several of the cues from the vintage look really did carry over here. Obviously, he's a rhino. He's got the two horns. He's got the camel pants. One thing that is a deviation, much like Bebop, how he doesn't have that nose ring, I guess, he also doesn't have the helmet that Rocksteady kind of has been known for wearing. But I wonder if you take this off. No, I guess it doesn't really. Well, you could. You could do something like that if you really desperately wanted to, but the guy looks really good, and I think nicely throws back to that original character. And for another comparison, here you have him next to the tallest of the turtles, that being the battle shell version of Donnie, and of course Shredder. And bringing in his buddy Bebop, you can see that they actually scale pretty well together, I think. Now, some people have really complained because Bebop is a much skinnier character than his previous version, but honestly, if that bugs you, why doesn't the fact that April O'Neil is a half mutant psychic, why doesn't that bother you? And that's really what I think it boils down to, just enjoying the fact that these characters are coming back to us. Yes, they're different than their original counterparts, but that doesn't mean it should take away how fun they are. I mean, heck, the Punk Frogs were not really anything like the original versions, and the fact that they made Napoleon Bonafrog basically Napoleon Dynamite, I thought was incredibly awesome. Now, for the toy, there are some points about this one that disappoint me a little bit more than the Bebop one. While the lack of paint applications on Bebop didn't bug me quite as much, this one I really feel could use a couple extra bits of paint. The other downside about this figure is the limited articulation. I can see why they cut it out, especially here in the shoulders, and probably making the hips swivel forward based on the angular cut of the upper part of the hip probably was a little bit more difficult, but I would have liked it if they were able to put some of that actual articulation into the figure somehow. All in all, though, I still think he's a great looking toy. And obviously, if you're going to get Bebop, you're going to want to have Rocksteady with you. And honestly, why wouldn't you want Bebop and Rocksteady on your Nick Turtle display? And if you're a fan, I would absolutely pick these guys up. Now, for the remainder of 2014, Bebop and Rocksteady will be Walmart exclusives, and they should be hitting retail fairly soon. In 2015, however, they will be available at mass retail. So if you can't find them at Walmart right away, in a couple months you will find them at almost all of your other local toy stores. But beyond that, guys, that's about it. So once again, I want to thank you for tuning in. This has been OPTIBOTIMUS. Don't forget that you can keep in touch with me by liking my Facebook page at facebook.com/TeamBotimus. And by following me over on Twitter at twitter.com/OPTIBOTIMUS. Also, I'd encourage you to check out my new website at OPTIBOTIMUSreviews.com, where you can see all my videos from the previous week, see what I have coming up for future release, and also get your very own OPTIBOTIMUS t-shirt. And finally, I'd also really appreciate it, guys, that if you like this review, don't forget to please like, comment, and share this video. And until next time, I'll talk to you later.